All right, today we're going to talk about the Misano 3 suit from that brand that nobody ever pronounces the same way. The Dianese, whatever you want to call it, Misano 3. I noticed that there's not a whole lot of real in-depth reviews on this suit anywhere on YouTube, and so I want to really cover this suit in a lot of detail. And I also want to talk about, like you saw in the thumbnail, why I chose to switch from Alpine Stars gear to Dianese. So you can see behind me right now, I have the Alpine Stars Missile, I want to say it's the Missile 2 suit, and I've used this for the last several track days. I think for my first 5 track days out of 8. And I'll be honest, it's a pretty decent suit. I was really happy with it for the most part. And it's not actually the suit that gave me the most difficulty. It's actually these, the SuperTech R boots, which, you know, these are Alpine Stars, like top tier track boot, or so they say. You can't really tell on this boot, but this zipper has blown out several times. Actually, the very first track day that I ever went to, the zipper just completely blew out, and it's never been quite the same. I've never been able to get it to go back together entirely correctly. And then on my 5th track day, I actually had the zipper entirely rip off of this boot, which is why we're now rocking this awesome yellow string. Dude, this is like a $600 boot, man. It made it through all of 5 track days. As far as I'm concerned, that's just not really acceptable. And so, plus, this boot fit me fairly well once it was actually on, but I always had difficulty getting it on. I've been fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you think of it, enough to have been born with really large calves. And so this boot just kind of sucks for that. It is not really conducive to people with that kind of build. And so ultimately, when this failed, I sent an email to Alpine Stars. It took them several weeks to get back to me. They wanted me to jump through a bunch of hoops to get them fixed. And I had track days coming up in the near future. And so I was like, nah, screw that. I've had enough problems with this already. I'm just going to make the jump over to Dianese. And so I'm super glad that I did. So I picked up this Misano 3 suit back in August of 2024, and I've been riding in it ever since. I wanted to give it a good long trial period before I really said anything about it. That way I could get, you know, kind of a good feeling for whether it works for me or not. And so far, I got to tell you, I've been super, super happy about it. This particular suit I actually picked up from Ducati Austin in Austin, Texas. Fantastic dudes. If you're in the area, absolutely go talk to those guys. They have a fantastic selection. They had, you know, this suit in a number of different sizes. I also got the Axial 2 boots with it. They still had some of the Axial 1 boots. They're going to give me a great deal on it, but I just like the Axial 2s a little better. They still also gave me a great deal on this suit. And they're super, super helpful. They were able to answer all my questions and kind of show me the ins and outs of the suit. So if you're in the area, I highly recommend going and check those guys out. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way to the bottom. I'm going to focus mostly on the things that I do like about the suit. There's a couple little nitpicks that I have about it, and we'll kind of get to those at the end. But starting at the top of the suit, there's this kind of comfort material here. Super nice, because when you're out there in the suit all day, I've had it before where other suits will kind of irritate your neckline. This is super nice. It doesn't wear you out, and it's really perforated and breathable up here. And so, you know, it's comfortable to wear all day long. The next thing is this whole section, all of this is all perforated, right? Even through here, you can see it's all perforated all throughout here. The first time I wore this suit, I thought that I had not gotten it zipped up when I first started out, because there was so much airflow, so much more airflow than the Missile suit, that, like I said, I literally thought I didn't zip it up. It is a night and day difference from the perspective of the amount of airflow that you get from the Missile suit to this suit. When you're doing track days in the middle of August or, you know, September or whatever, and it's like, you know, 80 degrees, 90 degrees, and 80% relative humidity, that makes this so much more comfortable to ride in throughout the whole day. The other thing you'll notice, these stretch portions. So there's a lot of stretch portions and a lot of accordion portions. It looks comparable to the missile suit. But I got to tell you, this suit feels like you have a lot more flexibility than the missile suit does. You're going to be a lot more comfortable throughout the span of a whole track day. So the next thing I want to point out is probably the biggest reason why I steered towards this suit instead of others is this feature right here. This is a built-in airbag. Now the missile suit is airbag capable. In other words, you can buy and put an airbag into it, but it doesn't come with one. And that suit was already kind of tight, and you know, my range of motion was pretty limited in that suit anyway. And so, you know, I didn't really want to add an additional airbag into that and make it even harder to move around in. Whereas this one, it's all designed into the suit and it's super, super comfortable. Let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. So I'll unzip it here. So this is going to be a little bit difficult to see in here, but there is a zipper right here that zips along the inside and exposes the airbag. Okay, now that we have it unzipped, you can kind of see it exposes the airbag, right? Which this is the airbag itself. And then down in here are the guts and the brains of the airbag right down in here. And so you can also see that once you open this up, you can get to the charging port, which is down here. It's nice that it's inside and it's protected. There are some issues with it, and I'll get into that kind of in the portion where I talk about the things I don't really like about the suit. This is the gas canister. So this system can be deployed 3 times before you have to send it back to Dianese to be evaluated and make sure that it's still functioning properly. It's me from the future. I noticed when I was editing this video that there's a couple things that I wanted to put into this video about this suit, a couple interesting details that I just forgot. So I'm going to jump in every now and then and just kind of add them in after the fact. The first interesting feature about this suit is the airbag. So the airbag has a really interesting and unique technology where it's kind of, you can think of it as almost like a sandwich, right? And like an airtight sandwich. And when it inflates, it spreads out. Well, they've actually included this interesting technology where there's a bunch of filaments between the two halves. So when it expands, it only expands so far. And the idea is that, you know, if you have something like a balloon and you squeeze one side of the balloon, what will happen is all of the air will squeeze out of that side and will overinflate this side. So if you land on that, it's not really going to cushion the blow because all the air will just move to the other side. But by putting these filaments into the airbag, it prevents or at least reduces that effect to some degree, because this side, the filaments are there, it can't expand more than it already has. And so that should, in theory, make it a safer airbag. And then on top of that, it should also help with some of the reusability. It should prevent it from expanding and stretching and damaging, you know, certain parts of the airbag. And so I think that's one of the ways that they've been able to get 3 airbag uses out of the same airbag without having to send it back and be, you know, repackaged and rechecked and replaced. So interesting feature. All right, back to the video. And this is one of the coolest features. So this is a water bottle, and you can see it's not a huge water bottle. So when you're out at the track, most of the time you're going to have extra water. This water bottle is really just going to be useful for that period of time where you're sitting on the pits and you're getting ready to go out for your session. And, you know, anybody's ever done track days before, you know that that's the worst part of track days, is when you're just sitting there on the hot bike getting cooked and you're not getting any airflow and you're just like dying, waiting for the last group to get off track so you can get on track and get some airflow and get going. So this is super helpful because that way you can just drink a little bit, you know, and it helps keep you cool, at least keeps you hydrated while you're waiting. And so this actually comes out back here. You can kind of see where this is. And there is a hose that comes with this suit and kind of a valve for your mouth, you know, just like a traditional kind of camelback type setup. So that's super, super nice on hot track days. So whenever the airbag is activated, you'll be able to see on this LED indicator, there's a different lighting sequence that tells you if it's in road mode or in track mode, if it's active. When the system is in track mode, it will not activate until above around 30, 35 miles an hour, something like that. And the reason why is because if you drop it in the pits, you just drop the bike and fall off. There's no reason why your airbag needs to activate. So it doesn't actually come on. It'll come into like a blue standby mode, right? There are two conditions required for it to activate. The gyros and the inertial measurement units within the suit are looking for a vibration profile that matches a motorcycle. And so it wants to know that you're on a motorcycle and the motorcycle is running and moving over 30 to 35 miles an hour. So once those two conditions are met, this light will go from blue to green, and that'll tell you that the airbag is armed and ready to go. In road mode, it should just immediately go to green. And the reason being because in road mode, this stays active all the time. It stays active anytime you're on the bike. And so the idea is like if you're in traffic and somebody rear ends you, you still want the airbag to deploy. And so you don't need to be going 30, 35 miles an hour in order for it to deploy in road mode, which is a really cool feature, I think, because I do wear this on track and on the road. If I know I'm going out to the Tail of the Dragon or some other kind of sketchy road, or I think I'm gonna be doing a little bit more aggressive riding, I'll definitely wear this guy rather than just my kind of lesser street setup. So continuing to move down, you can see the aluminum shoulder sliders here. And these are mostly just for impact protection. They're not meant to be drugged on the ground. As you move down, you can see that there is also some aluminum here for impact protection and then some TPU sliders. If you're actually talented enough to get your elbows all the way on the ground, you can see that the only scuffs and scratches on these are just from hitting the doorway, leaving the house whenever I go out for a ride. As you continue down, you can see, kind of a stretch section here, which is super nice. It allows you to really get your legs spread open so you can get off the bike, and it allows you a lot of flexibility. It's super, super flexible down in the kind of the leg portion, which is super nice when you're trying to hang off. All right, so moving down the legs, you can see that again, there is a aluminum impact guard right here for your knees. And then there is an interesting new slider system for this generation of the Misano suit. So the previous generation, the whole thing was just kind of Velcro and you had to take these on and off. But if you got them positioned just right, then you had to kind of remember where you had them previously. The cool thing about this system is that the actual pad itself will come off, but this Velcro portion will stay on. And so you can replace the knee sliders without losing the positioning of the knee puck itself, right? Which I think is pretty cool. You can see that there's a couple little scuffs there from the last time I was at Barber, and I actually did get a knee down a couple times, but I'm nowhere near the point of actually having to concern myself with replacing these yet. So when I actually have to replace it, I'll talk with you guys about what that process looks like, but so far we're not there yet. So the next thing you can see is the way that this suit actually closes is by zipping up in the back. So this suit combined with the Axial 2 boots, this suit is designed as a over the boot suit. These boots actually go inside the suit instead of your suit going into the boots like the Alpine Star suits. And like I was saying, if you have large calves, this gives you a lot more room. Plus, the other thing you'll notice here is that there's this huge expansion area right here. So if you do have large calves, you can expand this even more. Frankly, it's got enough room in the boot and the suit that a lot of times I don't even actually need to do that. And I've never been able to fit comfortably into the calf of a boot and suit combination before. This one, like I said, there's even more room than what I need, and almost everything else on the market is too difficult for me to get my legs into very well. So there's a ton of space. So if you have like monster bodybuilder calves, this guy will definitely fit. So that's another fantastic point when it comes to this suit. I bought the Axial 2 boots that go with this suit. They're more or less engineered to work together, right? And so they are so much easier to get on than these SuperTech R boots are. The SuperTech R, as you can see, they zip up from the side, which is just kind of an awkward and uncomfortable place to get to when you're already in this kind of constrictive suit. These zip up from the back, and so it makes it a lot easier to kind of pull the zipper together and get everything together as you zip it up. Plus, the other thing is, what I've found to be the most effective technique is you just kind of lean your foot forward. When you lean your foot forward, you can see that the boot just kind of naturally tries to close itself up. And so it's so much easier to get this boot and suit combination on than the Alpine Stars. You know, when you're out on the track and you go and you do the rider's brief and they're like, all right, go back, get your on and get on track. You have like 10 minutes, you know what I mean? And so when you're kind of under the gun to get the suit on and get everything ready and get out on track, it's so much nicer to be able to put this suit on. It takes me about half the time to get this suit on as opposed to the Alpine Stars suit. Also, another point worth noting is that this suit, I have Dianese gauntlet gloves. And those gauntlet gloves, they're fantastic gloves, but they just never fit very well with my Alpine Stars suit. And getting the gloves on before you go out was always like the most irritating part of the whole process of getting the suit on. And so for whatever reason, when they designed this suit and those gloves, this suit and gloves just go together. It's so much easier to get it all together. I think when this fully zips up, I think that the cuff line is just a little more compact than the Alpine Stars. Also, this locking zipper, in my opinion, seems to work better and actually stay in a locking position. It actually makes it very difficult to accidentally undo the suit once this thing is locked in place. And so, as opposed to the Alpine Star suit, that zipper would just always constantly come apart on me. And so this is just so much easier to get the whole suit on. You know, everything just works better, at least in my experience. So, you know, maybe that's somewhat my body type, whatever the case may be. But for me, this suit just fits so much better. And while we're on that subject of fit and body type, I'm about 5'9" and somewhere around 220 pounds, somewhere in that range. But I fluctuate between like 230 and 210, so somewhere in that range. But most of the time, I'm around 220 pounds. This suit is a size 58, and it fits me perfectly. It's tight enough that if I were to have an accident, then you know all the protection is going to stay kind of in place. But it's also loose enough that I can still get good visibility when I'm on the street and I need to do head checks, or you know when I'm getting off of the bike and things like that. I don't feel like I'm like totally claustrophobic in it, but I also feel like it's going to stay in place to give me the protection that I need if God forbid I need it. So I think the sizing for these is actually pretty close to what they were for my Alpine Stars as well. I think the Alpine Stars is a 56 and it's a little snugger. So I think that the 58 in the Alpine Stars would be probably pretty comparable to the sizing in this as well. So if you're, you know, whatever your size in Alpine Stars, you're probably pretty similar to the same size in Dianese. So let's go ahead and turn the suit around so you can see the back. So the back, you'll notice that it has a pretty significant speed hump. I think that the speed hump is probably actually a little bit bigger than the speed hump on my Alpine Stars. You'll also notice that there's actually perforations here in the speed hump at the top, and it really allows a lot of airflow to come in through the back of the suit when you're really leaned over, which is super, super nice when you're on track. Matter of fact, if you pair that with the back protector that I have somewhere here, if you pair this suit with the Dianese Pro Armor 3, I think it is, back protector that I have here, you can see if I hold it up, right, there's a lot of light that goes through this, so there's actually a lot of airflow that goes through this as well. The air comes in through these perforations, gets into this back protector, and man, it feels almost like air conditioning when you're running down the road, when you're running at like a pretty decent pace with this combination. It's super, super nice, especially on those hot days when you're just roasting. Once you start moving in this thing, it's like night and day, night and day. You just cool off so much better. There's some more perforation down here as well. And then huge accordion sections all throughout here, right? This whole suit, like I said, is just way more flexible than the Alpine Stars missile suit. Now, I grant you that this suit's in a different price category than what the Alpine Star missile suit was, so, you know, there's that. But so you can also see that there is some tailbone protection back here, some padding for that, which is nice. And then to kind of round it all out, there's some more perforations back here. Like I said, it's just a very high airflow suit. It's much nicer to ride in. So one of the other nice things about this suit is the way that you activate the airbag and all the electronics. Yeah, some of the Alpine Stars and other manufacturers are kind of notoriously a pain in the butt to get them to reliably activate. This one's super, super easy. So all you have to do is just do that. As soon as you close those tabs, you'll notice that this shoulder light, if I can get out of the shot, that this shoulder light comes on immediately afterwards, right? It's super, super easy, and now everything should be activated. You'll start to see it go through its startup sequence. And when it's activated, you can pull up the phone app, which is pretty useful. So this phone app is how you change this from street mode to track mode. It's also how you monitor the battery. So now I want to talk about some of the downsides of this suit. And actually the app is simultaneously one of the upsides and one of the downsides. So if you need to have this suit sent back to Dianese to be repaired or, you know, examined or anything like that, you need to put it into shipping mode. Unfortunately, when you look through the app, nowhere in there does it give you an option to put it into shipping mode. There's a riding mode, which you would think would be where that would be at, and you would be wrong. It is just not under any of these menus. And so what you'll find is that it is actually hidden inside of one of the other menus. A friend of mine bought one of the Magello suits and he needed to send it back. You can't find how to turn it into shipping mode anywhere in the instruction manual. You can't find it online anywhere. He ended up having to call Dianese and ask them, like, how the hell do I send this thing back? And so they finally told him that if you look at the app, there is a mode at the bottom there where it says remove suit. When you click on remove device. When you click on remove device, under that menu, there is a hidden button for shipping mode. Why? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just make it, you know, obvious that that's shipping mode? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't it just be like a riding mode or something like that? Maybe you don't want to put it in riding modes because you're afraid that somebody will accidentally click it and it won't activate when you need it. But like, it should be more obvious than like hidden in some menu and not anywhere in the instructions. Yeah, that's like dumb. But so other complaints I have about this suit. One, so I mentioned the back protector. If you look at the Alpine Star suits, if you put an airbag into the Alpine Star suits, they don't need a back protector. The airbag is the back protector. And so, you know, you're going to be doing track stuff with this and everything else. Why didn't they just integrate a back protector into it, right? Like, it's meant as a track suit, you know, so it would have been, in my opinion, it would have been better if they'd just integrated this in. So, you know, you don't have the potential for the back protector to slide up or down in the suit or anything like that. Just integrate it all into one unit. The other thing is, if you look at the missile suit has hip protection here in the back of the suit, and this suit does not have any of that hip protection. And so that's one of those areas that it would have been nice if Dianese would have included some hip protection into this suit. And frankly, you might be able to add some, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, it would have been nice if they had included some hip protection in here. And then the kind of third point is additionally a protection related point, which is that the airbag covers your shoulders, or excuse me, yeah, kind of like your traps up here, and then your shoulders, but mostly in this region. You know, at the end of the day, one of the most common injuries on the track are collarbones. And so it makes sense that, you know, the airbag protects your collarbones, and that's great. Yeah, you see in MotoGP, since they've started introducing and mandating the airbags, collarbone injuries have gone down dramatically. When was the last time you saw somebody break their collarbone in MotoGP? But there's no real protection for your rib cage or anything like that. And you know, you break a rib, you could puncture a lung. Yeah, I mean, there's some serious issues associated with breaking a rib. It'd be nice if the airbag covered a little bit more of that. My guess is the reason why it doesn't is they wanted to focus on the areas that are the most likely injured, and then they wanted to reduce the complexity of the airbag in order to make sure that it's able to be deployed 3 times without having to be repacked, and it just makes it a little more robust. That's my guess as to why they did that. Otherwise, I don't really know why, besides maybe cost savings, but it's already significantly more expensive than a lot of the other suits on the market. So I just wish they'd have done that. So I wanted to revisit this point. I was really curious about this, and I did some digging online, and I came across a forum where there's somebody who claims to be an engineer from Dianese that helped work on the suit. And so some people asked this question, and the discussion was basically that they consciously made this decision to compromise protection in favor of mobility. Apparently, a lot of the MotoGP riders that were wearing Dianese suits at the time helped develop this suit and develop this airbag, and a lot of them highly preferred the suit that only had the limited protection because the other suit was more restrictive in their mobility on the bike. And a lot of them eventually got to the point where they just wouldn't ride with the full suit anymore. So it really was, from the sounds of it, if this can be trusted as an accurate source anyway, a decision to make a targeted compromise where they were trying to get the most protection while still allowing the most mobility, and this is the compromise that they settled on. So if that's the case, then that makes sense. Me personally, as a track day rider and not a professional rider, I'd still probably prefer a little bit more protection. You know, at the end of the day, this is their job. If they crash and they break some ribs or something like that, they're going to be given the best medical care on the face of the planet for the most part, and you know, they'll be back in action before long. If I go to a track day and break some ribs, then I might be out of work for a while, and that could be pretty painful financially for me. So, you know, the needs of the MotoGP riders are probably maybe not completely aligned with us, but I at least understand better now why it sounds like they did that. So, and then my last major gripe about this suit is how you recharge the battery in this suit. So you can, I don't know if you can see very well, but there's kind of this little flap right here with this portion still zipped up to protect the guts a little bit. But there is this little flap right here that is a USB flap, and you lift this up and then you take a USB-C and you shove it in here. Well, there's 2 major problems with that. One, you can't really see where the USB port is, so you just have to kind of stick it in, angle it up a little bit, and then try to fiddle around with it until you can find where the actual USB-C port is, and hope that you don't accidentally break anything while you're doing it. That is a real pain in the butt. And then after you've done that, say that this thing is like on your bed and it's charging and you have that USB-C port in there. You know, I've had my dog knock the suit off the bed, stuff like that. And so, you know, what happens if your dog knocks the suit off the bed? Well, that USB-C port is plugged in there and it like twists the USB-C port. Are you going to break the charging port and basically brick your, you know, $2,600 or whatever suit? I mean, to me, what would have made a lot more sense is if they'd have done something like what you see in some of the Apple products, where there's a magnetic device that allows it to just stick to it. And so you just magnetically adhere to it. And so that way, rather than have to kind of fiddle with this and try to find this and, you know, get it just kind of in there and just right and whatever, you could just stick it on there, the magnets self-center it, and then if the suit gets knocked over or something like that, it just pulls it off. That's not a big deal. There's no chance of breaking your suit. You know, so that to me, it's kind of a nitpick, but at the same time, like, you know, if you do damage that thing, you're out a lot of money. Then you have to figure out how to put it into the shipping mode and send it back to be repaired. So pain in the butt. I think that they could have done that better, me personally. If you're listening, Dianese, whoever you are, fix that. Anyway, other than that, I think it's a fantastic suit. Other than those little nitpicky things, it's a very, very comfortable suit. It's very, very well ventilated. I think it looks nice. I think it feels great. I think it's lighter than a lot of the other suits that I've worn. The Magello is significantly lighter than this one as well. And so, you know, if I had it all to do over again, I might have spent the extra money and got the Magello. It feels like it's half the weight of this suit. Overall, I'm super, super satisfied with it. If I had to do it all over again, I would definitely stick with Dianese. But yeah, let me know if there's anything that you guys want to know about this suit. I'll try to answer any questions you guys have in the comments. I think that's probably going to be the end of this one for now. And as usual, have fun, ride safe, and don't f it up.